Welcome to everybody to this meeting by our network, the Left for a World Without Prostitution by the German Left Party. And welcome to you, Malin, from Sweden.
Thank you.
Are you in
Thank you very
Sweden right
much.
now? Or where?
Right now, I'm in Brussels,
You're in
actually.
Brussels.
Yeah,
Yes, of course. I guess you're there most of the time.
yeah. No, both because I'm no longer a member of European Parliament. I used to be for 10 years, and now I work with putting together a platform of cooperation between left parties, green, left, feminist, anti-racist parties in Europe. So I work a lot on that for the moment.
Yes, and we're so happy to have you here because you have such long experience also with European politics and also on this particular topic that we're concerned about, prostitution and the abolition of prostitution in the long term. So thanks so much for joining tonight. And so the plan is that, oh yeah, and I forgot to introduce myself. So my name is Katharina Sass, and I'm a member of the Left Party in the chapter of Cologne in Germany. But I also live in Norway. I've lived in Norway for a long time, and I'm a professor of sociology at the University of Bergen. But I'm also a member of this, founding member of this network. So yes, and as I was telling you in the beginning, the party leadership of the Left Party has decided last summer that there should be a longer process of debate on this topic of prostitution and the Nordic model and all of that. And so we are trying to contribute to organizing meetings and facilitating debate in the entire party as our network. Yes.
Great.
So the plan is that I'll interview you. I'll ask you some questions and we'll have a chat. And then after a while, about half an hour or so, we will open up for questions from the audience through the chat. And Marcus is going to help me moderate the chat. Yes, so that's the plan. And we'll try to keep it short and sweet, as I was saying, not more than an hour. And now we're already a bit late, but we'll see how that goes.
Great.
All right, so let's get started. I think it would be great if you could just start by presenting yourself one more time and telling us a bit about the different political roads that you've had in the Left Party in Sweden and also on the European level.
All right, so I'm Malin Björk, and I am a member of the Swedish Left Party since many years. And I have worked particularly a lot at the European level. I was an advisor in the European Parliament, and then I was a member of European Parliament elected for 10 years. And there I was active in the Gender Equality Committee, and I was also active in the Committee on Civil Liberties, LIBE Committee, where we work on anti-discrimination, but also on migration rights and rule of law and these aspects. So, and of course, I've then worked with left parties across Europe, the Linke, among others, of course, but also of course building majorities in other political families as well for different rights, such as right to abortion, right to sexual and reproductive health and rights, LGBTQI rights. I've been vice president of the intergroup for LGBTI rights there as well. So I've been working a lot on also on right to migration, right to move. So quite many years, and now I've stepped down from that. I'm a member of my party board for the Swedish Left Party, and I'm building together with partner parties around Europe this platform of left parties that are, progressive and works with both a green perspective, a feminist perspective, and we would like to win elections and start to govern our country. So
That would be something. Yeah. Well, how and why did you become interested in the topic of prostitution as a political issue? And what motivates you to, carry on the debate on this particular topic?
Well, I mean, I think I entered politics via like a feminist ticket, I would say. It's like
Mm,
one of my primary political political actions and activities were around feminism in like a broad sense in economic empowerment, but also of course bodily integrity and rights, and so that's how I came to be interested in this the topic of prostitution, and also as a left person. it was obvious for me that that has a very, material also base, and who is being used by whom and bought by whom in prostitution markets, and who is the buyer or the profiteer, etc. So I think this has been with me as part of my feminist political convictions from the very start.
Yeah. So when did you start?
So I'm born in the 70s. So I think already when I was around 18, 19 years old. So I started to be active in feminist left circles in Göteborg, the city where I come from, and we discussed these issues of prostitution policy then. So this was before the law came into place in Sweden.
Right. Yes, because Sweden has developed the so-called Nordic model, right? And it's based on 4 tiers of the Istanbul Convention: prevention and protection and prosecution and coordinated policies. And in Germany, especially, the prosecution tier is very much debated. And it's often claimed that the Nordic model has conservative roots, that it has even Christian fundamentalist roots, is what some people say. Maybe you could say a little bit about the history of the Nordic model in Sweden. So where did it come from historically, and how was it developed?
It couldn't be more wrong to say that it came from like Christian or moralist views, because it came from the women's shelter movement, because they of course had a lot of women coming to them that needed support and assistance, and they were the most. I mean, the most the ones that provided support, protection for women. They had lots of cooperation also with social services and with people that could actually give support to women in prostitution. And they were the ones for 20 years they had this ask to switch to put the responsibility and the blame, instead of stigmatizing women and girls in prostitution that were being used. They wanted to shift the focus to the buyer and the pimp. And for 20 years, Swedish politicians said, no, we're not shifting here. It's like it's all on women, and women were like, they are still in many European countries and around the world, women in prostitutions, they were the ones that were punished. They were the ones that were persecuted. They were at the wrong place. They were at the wrong time. They were, immoral, etc. And all, the feminist movement in Sweden said, no, if it's anyone being immoral here, it's the pimps and the buyers. They're the only ones. Women are not being immoral in this, or the people in prostitution. And it took 20 years to shift that focus. And suddenly, at one point, there were, I think it was almost 50% of women in parliament. And that's where it shifted. So I think there was also a critical mass of women that were, let's say it like this: the right wing didn't have 50% women in their ranks in the Swedish parliament, but the Social Democrats, the left, and the Greens had, and that's where we could shift things around. But it did not come from a right wing or a conservative Christian background. On the contrary, those parties were not behind the Swedish law from the beginning. They needed a lot of convincing, and some were even against it when it was voted through. And it's only afterwards that it has gained the support of some of these right-wing parties.
Yes. So it came from the women's movement, the women's shelter movement, and the unions. Were the unions somehow involved?
Actually, I would have to check that, but I think some leading women trade unionists were.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yes. So it was an alliance of leftist women pushing for this, basically.
Yeah, and then they when they became, when they got more and more gender equality within the parties, then they could make up the sufficient mass to also move their parties around.
But so now we've been talking about this law that prohibits buyers from paying for sex, right? But I guess owning brothels and pimping was forbidden even before that.
Yeah, yeah. Pimping was forbidden before, but the fact of going after the pimp, the buyer, the buyer, was the fact that it's called torsk in Swedish. The buyer, it's a fish actually, anyway. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
I don't know. That actually made it much more efficient also to go after the pimps, because via the buyer, now the police can also get to the pimps much easier, and less pimp and brothel establishment can be run in Sweden.
Okay, so you think that these laws interact in a positive way?
Yeah, that's according to the police. You know, they didn't have the fact that they can go after the customers also now means that they can go after the pimps in a much more efficient way. They have an entry point to pimps that they didn't have before, and I think what was important was, of course, to take away. There has been, and there's still in some European countries and around the world, that's kind of as if it was an equal relationship. So they, you know, both buyers and people in prostitution are criminalized. And for us, it was very important to decriminalize people in prostitution and criminalize the buyers. And I think it has gained a lot of support among Swedish population. It has, you know, it was strong already when the political parties managed to put it in place and the parliament voted upon it. But it has grown. It has grown, and there has been more and more support. And I think there are, you know, like how many generations of young Swedish men and boys grow up knowing that, please go ahead, you know, sex is great. There is no, you know, limits to the pleasure you can have and to the freedom you can have in this regard. But you just don't pay. You just don't buy consent. So that's the key, I think, and I think it's such a freedom to also to educate men and boys or future men in a country where it's not allowed to buy consent, when it's not, you know, where you can't buy women and girls in prostitution, or boys or men, you know, but that is not, it's just not allowed. It changes, you know, how you think about relationships and sexuality, I think.
Yeah, for everybody. And there are also studies showing that young men in Sweden have changed their attitudes and have a much lower level of having tried out paying for sex, right? So than older men. So in Germany, we don't see that. In Germany, it's the same likelihood for all men to become buyers. So there are no changes and no differences in terms of age, because, well, we don't have a law like that. But is also a fundamental difference that in Germany, brothels have always been allowed, right? There have always been legal brothels, which is also a huge difference compared to Sweden and Norway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the state has always been making money from it through taxes, right?
Yeah. It's for me, that's just it makes the state a pimp, and I think it's like disgraceful.
Yeah, it does, right? And the municipalities even sometimes have special taxes on it in addition. So yeah, it's a very different situation. But what about the other tiers of the model? Prevention and protection of the people in prostitution. Maybe you could tell us a bit about how that works in Sweden.
Well, I think, you know, as a feminist, I think none of us are happy with and content with the situation as it is when it comes to supporting women in precarious situations, and I think that's the case for Sweden also. And we have growing inequalities. We have you know, hardships. We have also, you know, even more and more repression on migration, which means that everyone that is in Sweden now, for example, without residence permit, is a target in a very brutal way. We have a right-wing nationalist government that has really made very brutal changes to these laws, and I think that has an effect on everyone. So when it comes to prevention, I think it's a very broad thing. It's not only about. I think it's about investing in women's rights generally, in housing, in welfare, and in trying to roll back these repressive migration laws. Prevention can also, of course, be work in schools, work in with the shelters, having resources, with social services that are specialized in kind of reaching out to women at risk or women in prostitution already. And none of that. So even if I take from the structural to the more social work aspect of the prevention work, I think is fully up to board. There is more to do. But I think in a country where you say that it's not okay for women or men or boys, but you understand, to be abused in prostitution, then you have to admit that it is a problem and you have to put in place things to prevent and protect. If you say it's just normal, it's a work like anyone else, you can just be there, then you have no problem. It doesn't, then you don't have a problem even to prevent. So yeah, I think there's more to do structurally, but also on like individual support level when it comes to prevention. I think we can do better. And certainly, if the Swedish Left Party could run things more, we would do more on prevention than we can today. I think we would do more. Also, we have special teams in some of the bigger cities, where police and social workers, together with women's shelters, work together to support. So, but that's not prevention in the sense that somebody never ever gets into the situation of prostitution. But if women need support, these actors should work together in order to make sure to get the best possible outcome for the victims. Also, that work in some cities it works fine, and other cities it really needs some better work. So that's also a fact. So I think as a feminist, you can never be really happy. You can never be really content. Maybe also in some regions in Sweden, the prosecution is good, going after the buyers, going after the pimps, the traffickers. In other regions, the police is a little bit less motivated. It appears that's not where they put their resources. I'm not saying that they are prostitute. I think that is fine with abuse and prostitution. They just don't put the resources there. So that also has an effect. But I don't know which part of prevention you would be most interested in.
No, this was all. You've covered a lot of important points, I think. But maybe let's get back to the Swedish Left Party's position on prostitution, maybe also from a more theoretical angle. What do Swedish socialists think? What is prostitution?
Well,
and what are the demands?
Yeah. For us, it's very clear that as the left parties, we are into analyzing and understanding power relations. We do that. We are critical towards capitalism. We are critical towards sexism, towards racism, and these are not just like individual relationships. These are structural relationships, and so when you look at the system of prostitution and the prostitution markets, it's so clear that's we have very brutal relationships of power at work. It is extremely, of course, sexist. It's or gendered in the sense that it's mostly men buying women, girls, and men in prostitution, and the pimps are primarily men, and so that's one aspect. The other aspect is classist. It's poor women. Preferably from other parts of the world that should be available in brothels and in prostitution. And if you as a left person can't see that something is wrong with that, I think it's we have to question where we are. So it's poor women or precarious women preferably from other parts of the world that should come then to Sweden or Germany and to be available for German men and Swedish men to buy and use. And then I would say that something that we also shouldn't hide or shy away from is that it's very racist. It's very racist in prostitution. Because it's there is and that goes with classism, of course, classism, racism. I would say it's at the core of the prostitution system. So when people say, oh yeah, but no, I wouldn't stop my daughter from being in prostitution, I usually say, but it wouldn't happen to your daughter because you're a white middle-class woman, or even, so we're not speaking about that. We're speaking about what are we going to do to protect all women from being abused and used in prostitution. And for me, there is no woman that is not enough worth to be able to try to stop that chain of violence or abuse. So that's how we see it in the Swedish Left Party. We say it like with the Nordic model, we don't solve everything. We don't solve everything by one law. It's much, society is more complex than that. Gender equality is more complex than that. But that is not an excuse not to try to take the steps that we can. And here, with criminalizing the buyer and decriminalizing the person in prostitution, we have a political tool that we can use. It's at hand for us to use. So for us as a Swedish Left Party, that was the analysis that we made. So analysis of power, classism, gender, racism, and that the emancipation in prostitution is a myth. And that was very, very clear from women that have come out of prostitution can tell us a lot. The survivors and the women that have come out, they can tell us a lot about what it is actually like to be in this situation. So that altogether made and we listened also to the women's shelters and to the ones that provide services and do that kind of work. So I think does this answer to your question about our reflection? And today there is a very, very strong support in all left circles for the Nordic model, which maybe should be called, I heard people speak about it as the equality model. Because we have it in France also, and we have it, in other, I don't know, France is not so Nordic, a priori, but I would say today it has a very broad support especially from the left, but also from parts of the right-wing parties that came along eventually, and the ones that are not very supportive, possibly. I mean, I don't think it's in Nordic countries particularly, but maybe I see in the European Parliament, I saw like it's the ones that are more liberal individualist, that has a less structural analysis of the economy, of power, of racism, of sexism. If you have a less structural analysis, then maybe you could end up in more liberalist Dutch scenario, let's say,
or German,
unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree. It's a liberal analysis that dominates in the German discourse so far, but we're trying to change that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the European Parliament, there has also been some debate on the topic, right? Maybe you could tell us a bit about the debates that took place in the European Parliament when you were there.
Well, I think many Nordic feminists brought the issue, put it on the table, said that let's speak about the fact that it's not normal that that men buy women in prostitution. You can do whatever you want in bed, but you have to pay. And when one of my predecessors, Marianne Eriksson, is her name, she said that in a committee meeting in the Women's Rights Committee. It was 10 years before I was an MEP. She said that I think we should criminalize the buyers, and not only the pimps, but the buyers also. People laughed at her. They laughed at her. So I think from that moment, we and when I stopped in 2024, it has been quite uphill because it was also the time where Germany you institutionalized the brothels and made your laws, and the Dutch have been very proactive politically to lobby European institutions to try to ensure their model is adhered to. But I think we managed to do some really good work, and we had a report.
Sorry, Malin, I think you were accidentally muted. Marcus, if you could unmute Malin, that would be great.
Yes, I just sent her the link.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
You hear me again?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know where we lost each other, but I would just say
Like
that
10 seconds ago.
we made a lot of progress, and we had a report voted called the Hannibal report, which I don't remember which year that was, but that was clearly on the Nordic model. Do you remember, Katarina? Maybe you have that.
It's somewhere on our website. We
Yeah.
had Mary Honeyball in Cologne actually
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. And then we continued that work and try to, because even if the parliament has taken a position that would be like in favor of the Nordic model, if you don't debate things with regularity, then it's as if as if it was no longer a political issue, and it is because we don't have we still have a lot of work to do in this. And so we did some work again, and I was before I left as an MEP, we did some work on trafficking to review the European trafficking legislation, and we managed to get in there that to reduce demand, that is to address the demand side, would be an important step, one of the important steps that we could actually take in order to decrease trafficking for sexual exploitation. But also, I mean, you can work about demand for, traffic labor in the construction industry or otherwise. You can also do many things to reduce demand in terms of strengthening trade unions or to have better laws on labor rights. But in this field, trafficking in sexual exploitation, we have to reduce demand. It is the biggest pull factor.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it's quite clear that the market has been reduced in Sweden as a result of the introduction of the law, that the demand has been reduced. And is there proof that there has been a reduction in human trafficking?
Now it has been a while since I read the reports, so I would actually recommend to go on the National Police and the National Institute for Gender Equality also, that they are responsible to gather all the latest research and latest information on this. But it's clear that the Swedish law was also introduced before there was the explosion of internet and prostitution via internet. So the fact that in other countries it's actually increased a lot with that, while as in Sweden it didn't. So the police in Sweden is very supportive of this legislation, because they feel that it enables them to have a tool to address and to minimize or to at least to reduce the abuse and the violence that women otherwise would be subject to. So and they also and to address trafficking, they say, without having pimping and trafficking, to address that without having this law, they said would be very difficult. So it has supported along law enforcement as well.
Yeah.
Not only women's movement, I mean.
No. Yes. And it has been also, it covers prostitution on the internet and things like OnlyFans now, doesn't it? Hasn't it
Yes,
been...
that's new. That's new. that I don't know exactly how the OnlyFans how they address that, so I wouldn't come forward as expertise on that. But it's true that when you have when the legislators have the intention of not normalizing and letting the abuse of women, girls, boys, and men in prostitution grow and become, get a hold of people's lives, then you are forced to act when things like that happen. So if there is a new platform, is there a new phenomena? If you take as I said before, one law cannot do everything, but it's a start of a societal change. And if you don't start anywhere, well, then you just say, I don't care. I don't care if, hundreds of thousands of women are bought and sold, as in Germany. Or if I can do something to take the steps to reduce that. So OnlyFans, others, I think it's about which prism do you see when there is sexual exploitation? Is it okay? Is it just, the way we should let things be? Or could we actually do something? And we are left-wing politicians, so we believe that we can do things together. We're not, free-floating liberals.
No, and I guess we also have a different view of male sexuality because we don't think that men have to be predators. They can.
No, no, and as I said, I think it's very I think it's a support to educate men and boys towards equality when you say that you cannot buy access to women, you cannot buy consent. It's the only normal signal to men, I would say.
Yeah, it's a form of prevention, even, I guess, for boys, preventing them from becoming buyers.
Yeah.
But in Germany, we hear a lot of critical voices who claim that the Nordic model has made the situation worse for the victims somehow. So, for example, it's claimed that people in prostitution fear losing their homes or being evicted from apartments, or that they can be deported, that they're not allowed to seek assistance from third parties and all of that. And I guess you've already told us a little bit about what more you would like to improve in Sweden, but maybe you could say something in response to this type of criticism that somehow the law makes the situation worse for the people in prostitution.
Well, I mean, this is not what we hear from social workers, from the police, from the shelters, so I think that's I think the situation for women in prostitution, wherever you are, I think the repressive migration policies have a big impact because, as I said, prostitution, whether it be in Sweden or Germany, is many times women that are brought from other places or should come from other places to be available, and that has an impact. The residence status and the policies around that have very big impact for people. So I'm not saying that if I would like that if you're a victim of a crime, so if you are abused in prostitution by buyers and pimps, I think you should have rights. I mean, I think you should have rights to stay. You should have the right to residence. And it's a very serious crime also, I think, to be abused and raped in prostitution. So there should be more rights attached to that. But that's a very leftish perspective, and that that the state should step in and should give more support. And we are still of course advocating for that, and we as left-wing politicians, we have to be vigilant about those parts, of course. But I have not heard that on the contrary, that it would be worse for people in prostitution now. On the contrary, the police, when they move in, they have to have they have to have, when they move into a brothel to arrest the buyers, they have to have a support plan also for the women that they potentially find there. that are victims of prostitution. So then they have to have referral for them. They have to have social workers with them. So that is not the reports we are getting. I think that one could say much worse about the situation in Germany or in the Netherlands, unfortunately, because I think that's the reality. So on the contrary, we're getting reports that women are feeling when the police do get interventions, they do get support, but I think that there can always be more done. There can always be more done, and I think the rights for people that are non-residents is a big problem in many countries in Europe, including mine.
Yeah, it's a matter of migration policy, right? And the migration policy in Germany is very similar to just as bad, basically, right? So that's also something that we as a network demand, is the right to stay.
Yeah.
If you've been a victim of this, and I guess it's the same in Norway and Sweden. It's something we need to demand, but it's not related to prostitution policy. It's a matter of migration policy, right?
But we could, what we have to continue to ask is that if you have been a victim of a crime, then, like in Norway and Sweden, where it is a crime to abuse people, you should have certain rights. And they could also be linked to residence status, so that you could, do something else, because it's but trafficking victims should have certain rights to residence. But even that, I know, is in all of Europe not respected. Not respected.
Yeah, and in terms of methods, I guess it's also important to remember that there may be studies that prostitution is harmful still, even in countries that have the Nordic model, but it's at least as harmful in other countries, right? So it's a matter of comparing as well. Where is the situation comparatively worse? And I would say definitely in Germany, right? But well, I think I'm going to start taking some questions from the audience as well. So far, there's only one, but I'll ask it anyway. So how about the police? Do they get some sort of special education? And are there special groups or departments within the police to go after the buyers or the pimps?
Yes, the answer is yes and no. In some of the bigger police districts, they do, and they have they get training, and both for the investigation and for the interventions that they do. And they had a big one in Stockholm now, where they arrested 120 buyers or something like that. It was last week, I think. So in some police districts, they have chosen to do very serious and professional work around this. And then in others, we had for a long time a problem in the north. They were just not putting the resources in that department. So I think that's also a political issue, of course, that if we mean serious with this, we have to put the resources there. But as leftists, we shouldn't only put the resources in the let's say the prosecution part, but also in the prevention and the services and the support part. So it's always a little bit of a discussion to have, of course. But I said that the police is very positive about this piece of legislation, and they are very positive to work with the social services and the shelters on this.
Yeah,
and I would say that this is one of the areas where the police works very well with different actors, because they see that this is a complex intervention.
And that's an important part of the model as well, this cooperation between the different actors, the police and the shelters and the help and the services and all of that. Yeah. Okay. What about the other political parties in the European Left Alliance for the People and the Planet that you're leader of? Would you say that they share the Swedish Left Party's critical stance on prostitution for the most part?
Um, I think there are different. I was thinking about that when I saw your question because it's actually varies. I think there are many left parties that haven't taken a clear position yet. So that I think could be a piece of work to do together. And definitely the Swedish and the French are clear on this. You know, in Sweden, it's interesting. We never used the word abolitionist at the time. We used, it was like a feminist gender equality thing, a law. Could we abolish altogether prostitution? I don't think we were being, maybe we didn't envisage completely that. We just knew that we had to do what we could, politically speaking, to reduce and to limit the abuse of women and the commercialization of women's bodies, and sexuality. So in the different left parties, there are different positions, but I think that there is a growing understanding among left parties in Europe, and that there is this, like I spoke about before, the interconnection of classism, of sexism, of racism, and the left. We are the best of kind of analyzing how these power relations work and how abusive they are towards certain bodies and certain groups of people in society. So I think it's very difficult for left-wing people today to defend the prostitution system as emancipatory, or as if it was okay for one group men to buy another group women, and that those women should be in their turn then composed of persons from the most precarious classes, or from parts of the world, preferably almost non-white. So I think for left people it becomes more and more untenable to defend a system of prostitution markets, basically, like in Germany. I can't understand it. As a leftist position, I just can't hold it. The Dutch is one thing because I don't see there is a left in Netherlands. I'm sorry, but it's very liberal in this, and they confuse cannabis with women's bodies, and they don't, like it's not intellectually sound. But that's in my view.
But in France, it's similar to Sweden.
Yeah, they have also the Nordic model or the equality model. So
yeah, but I mean on the left, your experience.
Oh yeah,
with,
I think there is
socialists in France.
I think there is there is support for the equality model in France. I think in Spain, the Socialist Party and the part of the left parties, because there are very many left parties in Spain, also embrace the equality model or the Nordic model. And I think it looks a little bit different in, I'm thinking about our different countries now. In Portugal, I think there is a split between in the left. So I think that we have some work to do, but I think that we are very well equipped in the left to do this kind of analysis. And we're also the ones that will never, we will insist on the support and on the services and the support and the prevention, and not just end up in a very kind of repressive model in this area. So it's very important to have a strong left voice. It's very important.
Yeah, and I guess also what you said about valuing all women the same, independent of where they are from or what class background they have. All women have the same worth. I guess that's something the left has to insist on. But I got another question here from the audience, and I just want to encourage people, if you have more questions, just put them in the chat. Is it planned to evaluate the situation one more time in Sweden at some point and maybe make new statistics of the progress after the introduction of the law?
There has been. I don't know when the last one was. Maybe it's too long ago then since you're asking for it again. I think it definitely should be done. I don't think we have nothing to. Of course, we should do that. That's not. If I could decide, we should do that more often. And I see that somebody has a book recommendation here. I don't know if he's apparently translated to German. Ekström. And if you want to listen, he's a police officer, so he's lots of experience on intervening at that level. And he could explain precisely how that has changed the police work. But there are, people that work, social workers that are fantastic that work in this. There are survivors, that would also like to speak. So if one wants to do, and prosecutors also. So if one wants to do a holistic view about what the law has entailed, how it has evolved over time. I think there's all, in terms of expertise. But I think indeed, I also think that Simon Häggström is a really good read for those who haven't discovered him yet. And he's a good listen, if you can invite him and listen to him, he's also very good. Very good.
Yeah, maybe we should do that.
I have his contacts. You can
yeah, that would be great if you could give me that.
I'll try to.
Yeah, I'd love to interview him. But you mentioned survivors. Do you have, or women who have been in prostitution, have come out of it? Do you have some in Sweden who are sort of more prominent, who have been important voices in the debate?
We had at the moment of the law coming through, we had a network and we had several voices that were prominent. Now I haven't worked in Sweden for some years, but we did invite, when I had organized a hearing in the European Parliament, and we had survivors from different countries, from Spain, from France, from Germany. So it's very important. It's very important to include voices of people in prostitution. And Sweden also, we had, sorry, now I remember, we had also two women from a network in Sweden. I can put you in contact with them as well. So, and I think even though prostitution markets have been reduced in Sweden, they haven't disappeared, and it's important that women that come out of that and that we have platform and arenas which are safe and where they can be able to tell their stories. Because I think women that are critical towards the prostitution industry, that they have survived, they have a very hard time to speak out. It's very hard to be the ones that speak out against the system, and where you come from that experience.
Yes.
So we need to be very aware of that, how difficult it is, and also be able to create safe platforms.
Yeah. I mean, it's highly traumatizing. So talking about it is also very tough.
And it also means that but that's a whole. But it's definitely important that we don't that we have that we undertake that piece of work as well.
Yes. Let's see. Are there any other questions in the chat now? I had one other question in my head, but it's just disappeared. Oh yeah, now I know. So in Germany, we have these organizations of both brothel owners and actually, pimps basically in the debate. And we also have some organizations who claim to speak for people in prostitution. But then when you look closer, they often have people in their ranks who actually make money off of others people's prostitution, right? So it's a sort of a mix. Including also people who profit. And we only have one network that only includes women who have been in prostitution. That's Network Ella with Urskumal. But do you have these types of organizations in Sweden that claim to speak for sort of independent sex workers or something like that? Do you have that in the debate?
Yeah, but not so much. not so much. We haven't had that so much, but yeah, yes, we have had that as well. And I think, I mean, I listen. I don't try to silence anyone. It's that's not my job. I listen and I learn and I make my analysis and our analysis. And we have to dare to push forward what we think is right. And for me, I have no doubt that it cannot be the right thing to have hundreds of thousands of women being available and for men to buy women in brothels. It's just like I can't see that how that can feel like 2026. It feels so Victorian. It feels so old fashioned. So I listen, and I respect, but I disagree with those that have that.
Liberal standpoints. But you also said that the law is quite supported in the population. Maybe you could say a little bit more about that.
It's very supported. I don't know the last survey around that, but over the years it has been very supported. I think there could be, with social media being the way it is today, I could always be afraid that somebody gets a big campaign in social media and try to change that. But I think once you've settled this in society, that sex is great, we are not moralizing about, the importance of having freedom in that area. But, freedom is precisely that for everyone then. And it cannot be that your freedom is to buy another one's, body. So once you've settled that, I think it's, why backtrack on it? Like even on there is no backtrack on. And so if you're not one, if you're not the brothel owner, if you're not the ones that's buying stock market shares in the brothel industry, then you can actually, it's quite obvious for many people that it's the right thing to do. And that if we can take these steps to reduce the number of persons being abused, and so we have to do we have to take the steps we can do, and that's what we've done in Sweden, in Norway, in France, and I think we should, and Ireland. So I think Germany should jump on the train and get back on track. And I think the left will have a very important role to play there, because we don't think that, we can analyze this, that there is a lot of like just pure economic interest driving these brothels and the abuse going on there. Very pure economical interest. And from a left perspective, to set down our foot and say, well, that's not under my watch. Not under my watch is this going to continue. We will be very important to be the ones doing that. And not confuse, not confuse sexual liberty with prostitution industry. I think they're actually complete opposites.
Sexual liberty and prostitution are complete opposites. Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Totally agree with that. I mean, in Germany, it's a bit weird now, because the first party that has actually decided to support the Nordic model is the Christian Democratic Party. I don't know if you've heard about that. The Women's Network there has decided to support the Nordic model. And in the other parties, it's an ongoing debate, right? Like in the Left Party, also in the Social Democratic Party, they have an ongoing debate about it. But I mean, I guess what you just said means like, okay, so we cannot really trust the Christian Democrats that they would be spending enough money on help and support programs. Also, they are very critical of migration. They make it very hard for people from non-European countries. So I guess that's another thing where the left is different, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that if one, I think it would be very important that the Linke and the Social Democrats in Germany, that you move forward with a vision with a left vision on this, which would include the criminalization of buyers and pimps, but not only. And that you have a vision of support and a vision of sexual freedom and a vision of, these other parts, and of women's economic empowerment and things like this, so that so that people have your very clear perspectives on those issues. I think that would be very important. I think the Greens, since the German Greens, since they were the ones that introduced this German law, basically, or at least advocated for it at the time, if I understand it right. And I've met all of them in the European Parliament. They are, at least for the moment, not very helpful. But the Swedish Greens are totally on board supporting the Nordic model and the Swedish law. So, I've worked fantastically with my Green colleague from Sweden to try to have the discussion with Dutch and German Greens, but it has not been possible. So I have a lot of hopes for the Linke, but also for the Social Democrats in Germany then in this piece of work.
I mean, the Green Party is so liberal that they have no structural analysis whatsoever of what's going on. I guess that's the main problem. They don't seem to see the economic side of things at all, and the power relations that are going on.
In some countries, the Greens, I think the German Greens are particular in that case, because in some countries the Greens are a little bit more prone to structural analysis of both economic relations and gendered and racism and classism, etc. So, but in Germany, I think the Greens are not a possible partner at the moment.
And what about the Christian Democrats in other European countries? What kind of experiences did you have with them?
No. The EPP group in the European Parliament, which is like this conservative group, they, apart from the Irish, they were not supportive of the Nordic model. They had so many men that I would say were buyers. It was, no. So I didn't get much support there. But I think when I worked with these issues, I would say the Social Democrat group, the left group, both of our groups were slightly split, but coming over towards the equality model. The Green group, only the Scandinavians were with us, and the Liberals, almost impossible. They were the worst ones. And in EPP, some support at some levels.
And of course, the far right is normally in favor of liberalization of prostitution, at least not in Sweden, I guess, but in Norway they are.
Oh, but in Sweden also, they were never in favor of the law. And maybe today they wouldn't dare to vote against it, but they were never in favor of this. No. They're the most sexist and misogynist party. We have
kind of logical that the far right would be supportive of prostitution.
Yeah. But sometimes in the European Parliament, I could almost feel like that for Germany and for Netherlands, it was like a national issue, and that one would stick to the national policy.
Yeah, on the left or in general?
Yeah, well, in general.
Yeah. I mean, there's such a long tradition, as I was saying, of having brothels in Germany. It's always been legal since the 19th century, right? So, and it's a lot of money in this industry.
Yeah, lots. So, but I think in the left we are not afraid of regulating capital. So we shouldn't shy away from this field.
No, it's really about time. I mean, we're talking about huge human rights offenses. I mean, it's absolutely horrible, right? No,
yeah.
Well, does anybody have more questions? Then please put them in the chat now. This is the moment to ask any more questions.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I think just to finish to say that if you are interested to work together with people from the Swedish Left Party and to I don't know to deepen this discussion and understanding, do get in touch with us, and I'll also can put you in contact with different groups in Sweden with it, be it, people from the law enforcement or social work or survivors of prostitution. So if there's any way we can cooperate on this, of course, we in the Swedish Left Party are happy to do so.
Thank you, Malin. I really appreciate it. And we are also telling the members of the German parliament this, of course. So thank you. Now we have it on tape and we can send it to them and say, here you go, please inform yourself about what's going on in Sweden and get in touch with Swedish comrades. So thank you so much, Malin, for taking the time for this tonight and for your work. And yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thanks to the audience for coming, and we'll put it online and hope that it will spread more.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Malin.
Bye.
Have a good evening.